Druid is truly impressive in Path of Exile 2. It's what made me play the game again, and the fact that I'm not tied down with any other game at the moment. What sold me onto the game again is when I saw that Druid can shapeshift into a wyvern. Fuck yeah. I've been saying for a long time now that RPGs don't utilize creatures and races as much as they should. Usually it's all quite basic, considering the mythical and fantasy possibilities. So to see a wyvern shapeshift option was quite a positive thing. This Diablo-esque genre especially needs such interesting gameplay options. I've played many games in this genre in my life, and what I figured out is that it's the quality-wise weakest RPG genre by far. Most games like this focus on artificially prolonging game time as much as possible, usually to substitute for lack of quality content. Mostly filler gameplay stuff with occasional interesting challenges, focusing on loot management so that players can play around with something that could create a dopamine effect through gambling mechanics to continue playing so that the interest due to mediocre content doesn't wane. These are weak systems that offset gameplay tedium, which is present in every game of the genre, but it also creates another out-of-gameplay tedium, which is inventory and gear management. People have been conditioned to accept RNG systems in such games as something unavoidable, which in my opinion is a mistake. This genre has huge potential, but as long as focus is on RNG time wasting instead of better gameplay and gameplay content, it's not gonna come close to realizing it. So what the hell is this video about? Let's call it Path of Exile 2 Second Impression, you shape-shifting bastards. Path of Exile is most likely the best game in the genre. I've played the first one to the end game, didn't finish all the content if I recall correctly, but enjoyed it nonetheless. End game not so much with that room system or whatever it was called, can't remember, it was a long time ago. It was a no-brainer to check out the sequel then. What I respect about Path of Exile is that it cares about lore and story. This gives more meaning to progress. Like we are part of the world and are doing something worthwhile. In Path of Exile 2 is the same thing. While we are going to deal with classic, way overused corruption overarching story, there's more to it due to more detailed storytelling with plenty of lore bits and pieces scattered around that gives deeper meaning to each act. At times, story events get quite brutal. Don't know if anyone remembers Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing, another game in the genre with more focus on storytelling. Really liked that one. Point being is that Path of Exile 2, same as the first one, has that additional layer that makes the game better. Most impressive thing Path of Exile 2 did for me is how it changed the gameplay to be more dynamic. This was another complaint of mine for a long time about this whole genre. The static gameplay and how uninteresting it becomes quickly. Have to give credit to Diablo 4 here as well. It improved gameplay since that abomination called Diablo 3 by making it more hands-on and less passive. At least that's how it played when I played it at release. Path of Exile 2 also did that compared to the first one, and it plays fantastic. Telling you people, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to games. My second biggest complaint about this genre was the static gameplay, and both Blizzard and GGG changed that for the better. They figured out as well that gameplay needs much more improvement to become more hands-on, because it can keep interest longer in the gameplay itself. For such a change to work well, the game needs to have good enemy group encounters, great enemy and boss design, difficulty progression that challenges the players to force them to interact with the build system more often, have more active defense options, and dynamic hands-on gameplay. Path of Exile 2 does almost all those things really well. Just a look at some of the druid gameplay and the amount of things that are going on. Jumping in and out, switching 3 forms, using as many skills as possible to gain an advantage, switching to spear as a ranged option against some bosses, paying attention to positioning. Occasionally I also use a shield that has an active block or parry, depending on the shield type. There's a dodge button too. On top of all that, there are passive defenses like armor evasion and energy shield. Druid is such an enjoyable class to play due to shapeshifting and how dynamic it all is. So far all the way through Act 2 I almost never got bored, which is really rare. Forms and the uniqueness that goes with each one makes for a special experience. GGG understands the weaknesses of the genre, so to offset it they have made the game very complex. Each skill has layers, and the layers of things that can be chained into something else, if you can figure it out. Playing as a druid, shapeshifter and chaining skills through 3 forms works brilliantly. Playing with druid in Path of Exile 2 might be the best gameplay I've ever experienced in this genre. What is important to add is that GGG knows how to increase challenge with every new area. That way I'm constantly forced to try different things, to have backup options, to interact with the system more, how to better chain everything, what to do when the boss counters my playstyle too easily. I've died a couple times, just to come back stronger with better understanding on how to approach the next area. And that skill tree. I absolutely love it. So many meaningful and gameplay altering options. It's beautiful. One of the best skill trees in gaming ever. But then we come to the gear system and my pure hatred towards such RNG systems. I don't know how it works later in the game as I've only reached Act 2, but I do hope it gets much better, meaning less random. While most games don't really care much about such systems and rely on simple RNG, Triple G goes 3 more layers of RNG on top of the basic RNG. In some way that is better because it's an actual system. Not just something shallow thrown on top of the game just to waste people's time and gatekeep the goal. So if you're gonna have RNG systems, at least do something more with it, like Triple G have. Though for me they are doing a disservice to the game with the random modifier bullshit and the 27 orbs that can rearrange random modifiers with more random modifiers. Why? For fuck's sake, why is this acceptable? Path of Exile 2 is not some poor attempt at Diablo-esque genre. It has some of the best gameplay in the genre, incredibly detailed levels that are truly awesome aesthetically, quality story and lore for the genre, incredible character progression skill tree, great challenge progression, even though at times it pisses me off how easily we get 1 or 2 shotted. And then this RNG system comes into play that serves only one purpose, and that is to gatekeep players to get to the exact gear modifiers they want. Here's an analogy. You are traveling from Europe to America. Europe represents the gear you have, while America represents the gear that would fit you perfectly. In a regular non-RNG game with fixed drops, or at least a much less RNG layered system, hopping on the plane and getting to America would be most direct way to get to the required destination, so very little time wasted. It's a direct flight path. In Path of Exile, getting to America would be done by taking a car to China, then making a boat stop at Antarctica, touch Africa and then travel to America on that same boat with only a fanny pack around the waist, which represents the size of the inventory. At least that's how it works early on in the game. I hope there's a more fixed system later on. I know that this might sound crazy to people playing this genre regularly, but imagine this. If I could choose which modifier I want from a list. Crazy, right? What a wild notion that is. I get the psychological advantage studios have applying gambling mechanics with RNG systems to games and how it hooks players. Issue is most players are not aware of the fact that their time is being wasted. Such systems were there in this genre for a long time to offset lack of quality gameplay. Now there's no need anymore, especially not in a game like Path of Exile 2. Quality content, quality progression and quality gameplay surpasses low quality RNG time wasting systems every single time in pursuit of progress. Couple other things that bothered me about the game. More often than I would like to see, there are special enemies based around a certain elemental type, let's say fire, with some sort of resistance to cold, but no resistance to fire. Maybe they polished that for the full release, because it's frankly ridiculous. Another thing is the honor system in Trial of Ascendancy. You get hit, you lose honor. Honor depleted means run over. Have to do it again. In a game with tons of enemies on the screen at once, tons of special effects, AoE, homing projectiles and whatnot. Not saying it's impossible or anything like that, far from it. It's just annoying. This genre should never have any sort of no-hit policy for mandatory quest or mandatory system progression. Performance on PlayStation 5 could be better as well, frame rate drops occasionally, but what's worse, servers tend to lag a lot. Anyway, that's the second impression. Druid is awesome. Rarely have I had so much fun with the Diablo-esque genre as I did with Path of Exile 2 and the Druid class. Not planning to stay with the game as it is a giant time sink that would require me to change the channel only to Path of Exile content, which won't happen. But I'm glad to see improvements in key areas in this genre. Patreon, subscribe, links are in the description, it's where the last couple reviews are. Thanks for watching.